Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are unpacking a truly fascinating intersection of astrology and communication psychology. We're looking at the hidden mechanics of a fiercely fast-moving mind, specifically exploring what happens when someone has the astrological placement of Mars in the third house. So if you've ever been told you think or speak at absolute lightning speed, well, this one is for sure for you. Because right beneath the surface of that rapid-fire communication style lies a pretty high-stakes psychological question. When the pressure is on, do you respond with awareness, or do you simply react from impulse? Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for decoding this fearless, quick-witted style today. We're going to cover the fast-moving mind, the psychology of speed, the origins of that quick voice, the shadow of immediate reactions, and finally, mastering the pause. All right, section 1, the fast-moving mind. This is where urgency meets everyday interaction. So think about the third house for a second. It's the traditional domain of learning, curiosity, and our daily chats, right? Now watch what happens when we inject the pure, instinctive urgency of Mars right into that space. It doesn't just speed up the mind, it basically creates a neurological fast track straight to the vocal cords. Action and communication completely fuse together into one unstoppable force. And because of this intense combo, words often move way faster than reflection. Conversations get highly energetic, opinions arrive instantly, and let's be real, for a mind moving this quickly, just 3 seconds of silence can feel like an absolute eternity. Waiting literally just feels like a glitch in the matrix. Moving on to section 2, the psychology of speed. Let's look at the two distinct pathways of the human brain. Now, what's really wild to discover here is how perfectly this astrological placement maps onto our actual biology. You see, the human brain uses two very different communication pathways. The first one reacts immediately to any perceived threats, disagreements, or resistance. The second pathway takes the time to pause, reflect, and then respond thoughtfully. Well, it turns out Mars in the third house naturally supercharges that first instant pathway. The mind spots a challenge, and before deeper thinking even has a chance to kick in, the words are already out there. But listen, let's not mistake speed for a flaw here. This rapid pathway actually unlocks incredible, fearless superpowers. I mean, these are the individuals who never hesitate to say exactly what everyone else is just thinking. They ask the tough, direct questions. They will instantly step between a threat and someone they care about, and they challenge unfairness without ever waiting for permission. Honestly, their sheer courage just inspires others to get moving. And because they naturally step up when others freeze, this decisive style is a massive competitive advantage. It's no shocker that we find people with this placement totally thriving in the chaos of crisis management, the high stakes of law enforcement, or thinking on their feet in journalism, sales, and entrepreneurship. When the clock is ticking down and everyone else is panicking, their quick thinking becomes the ultimate asset. Section 3, origins of the quick voice. Where does all the speed actually come from? If we trace the evolution of this quick voice, it usually takes us right back to childhood. A lot of folks grew up in highly competitive family dynamics where, speaking quickly earned you attention or hesitating just invited immediate criticism. You learned early on that the louder, faster voices simply controlled the room. Then in adulthood, your nervous system just automatically repeats those familiar survival patterns. And fast forward to today, we live in a digital era where social media and breaking news literally applaud and reward those exact instant reactions. Mars adapts effortlessly to this modern pace, but it creates a real friction point. Firing off an instant reply feels incredibly powerful and super productive. But there's a catch. Meaningful communication actually grows slowly. True understanding requires something a lot harder than a lightning-fast clapback. It requires listening before answering. Let's move to section 4, the shadow of immediate reactions, and see how this builds when the gift becomes a habit. We have to ground ourselves in a hard truth here. Every gift carries a shadow. When left entirely unchecked, that brilliant, rapid-fire superpower can eventually morph into a pretty destructive reflex. Here is exactly how an impulsive mind accidentally damages connection without even realizing it's happening. First, speed quietly becomes a habit, entirely replacing thoughtful reflection. Before long, interrupting others just starts to feel like the normal pace of a chat. Finishing someone else's sentence feels like you're being helpful and wonderfully efficient. But ultimately, conversations slowly mutate into contests. Winning the moment becomes way more important than actually understanding the person sitting right across from you. Plus, psychology shows us that emotional intensity, whether that's anger, excitement, frustration, or even pure enthusiasm, significantly shortens the distance between feeling and action. Mars heavily amplifies all of those emotions. That high emotion first response is usually just an instinct to protect your pride. We've all been there, right? The true, much wiser response usually requires a calmer state. Ironically, it's usually the one that finally pops into your head 20 minutes later while you're standing in the shower.
Finally, Section 5, Mastering the Pause, shifting from a reaction to a response.
There's a crucial warning we need to acknowledge here. Though, to be clear, the goal isn't to stop being confident. Not at all. It's to wield that confidence properly. Mars encourages incredible directness, and it values honesty over comfort. But without patience, that courage can quietly become confrontation. Extreme directness mutates into aggression, and your natural confidence can begin sounding like rigid certainty rather than open curiosity.
The real secret to thriving relationships is realizing that your loved ones rarely need you to rapidly fix their problems. What they really need is your emotional presence over immediate solutions. A fast reply might solve a practical issue, sure, but it entirely misses the emotional one. Your loved ones just need to be heard rather than just answered. So for the fast-moving mind, active listening becomes an act of courage completely equal to speaking. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate takeaway. Astrologically, Mars in the third house never ever asks you to silence your voice. The deeper lesson is learning this vital distinction. A reaction belongs to instinct and exists purely to protect the ego. A response belongs to awareness, and its ultimate purpose is to strengthen relationships. Because the strongest communicator isn't necessarily the fastest speaker. Real strength appears in the pause before the next sentence. That brief, magical moment of silence is the exact space where emotions settle, intentions clear up, and true compassion finally gets to enter the room. Which leaves us with this core lesson. You never have to abandon your initiative, your bravery, or your honesty. You literally just need to guide it. Fearless honesty combined with thoughtful restraint equals your highest potential. When your courage is guided by a little bit of patience, your communication becomes truly powerful and deeply healing. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a bit of a challenge. For the very next time you speak, in that split second before the words leave your mouth, ask yourself, are you about to protect your ego or are you going to strengthen the relationship? The choice and all the power is entirely in your pause.